Thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. Hey, thank you. Thanks for coming. So, why do we need training and qualifications? Why is it important to trainers like me, to teachers, and to managers? Oh, I'll start off with a little story. About a year ago, I was in this place. Does anyone know where this is? Akbar? Right, so it's the business school in Shanghai. I was at the back listening to a presentation. There were staff in this presentation that were all different levels in the organization. There were teachers, senior teachers, managers, sales staff, service staff. About half of the trainees were Chinese, and about half of them were foreign. And I don't know the individual level of English of all the Chinese staff, but we know that all of them work for a company that teaches English, and we know that all of them work in an English environment, and all of them have access to free English lessons. So they were listening to a lecture from a lecturer in Holt who was from Mexico, and he spoke perfect English, and he had a Mexican accent. And about a third of the way through this training, it became clear that almost none of the Chinese staff in this presentation could understand the lecture. And I guess that was because none of them had ever heard someone Mexican speaking English before. And you might think, why does that matter? Because these are the world's biggest English-speaking countries. America, Britain, Canada, other. And how many of you agree that these are the biggest English-speaking countries in the world? Yeah, you do. So, this is kind of a traditional way of looking at English-speaking countries around the world, but this is maybe more of a modern way. You can see here that America is number one, but some of the other countries in the top 10 are Germany, India is number 2, Pakistan is number 3, the Philippines is number 5. But often I think when we teach students and we ask them about these different countries, they say, I don't want an Indian accent, I want to sound American, or I want to sound British, which is understandable. But who do our students speak to when they leave the classroom? Well, this is a map of countries that have China and America as their biggest trading partners. So the countries in red have China as their biggest trading partner, and the countries in blue have America as their biggest trading partner. So you can see that when our students leave the classroom, they're not just speaking to Brits and Americans and Australians and others, right? They're talking to people from Asia, people from Africa, people from South America, people from Eastern Europe, and they're doing all of it in English. So our students need to be able to understand and be understood by people with different varieties of English from all over the world. So maybe unlike 10 years ago, now we can say that English either belongs to everyone or it belongs to no one. So that was one big change in English. Another one I'll tell you about starts here. This is the Vatican City in Rome. And this is the ascension of the Pope in 2005. And 8 years later, there was a new Pope, and someone took a photo from the same place of the same event, and this is what it looked like. So you can see in that 8 years that mobile phones became a lot more popular, and they started to replace a lot of other things that we used to use in life. So for example, whenever I used to go on holiday, I always used to lug a big SLR camera around with me. But now whenever I go on holiday, I end up just taking my mobile phone. When I was young, whenever we went on a family holiday, we'd take some photos. When we came back, we'd put the spool into a developer, and they'd print off the photos for us, and we'd put all the photos in a photo album. But now, I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room, in their phone, will have hundreds, if not thousands of photos of all the friends and family and recent holidays that they've been on. Again, when I first went abroad in 2003, I called home to my parents probably every month. And every time I did that, I had to buy a calling card, punch in the numbers into a phone, had a terrible connection. Now, every time I call home, again, it's not gotten any more frequent, but now when I call home it's free, my parents can see me and I can see them. Again, 10 years ago when I first started teaching English, some students brought in dictionaries to class, they'd flip through and try and find the meanings of new words in English. Now, students, you see this all the time in classes. Me, whenever I get a message in Chinese, and I don't understand what it is, copy and paste whatever text message I've got, put it into my phone, and it tells me the meaning. And again, when I was at school, and several years ago, if you went to a presentation like the one today, everyone would have a little notebook, you'd be taking notes about what happened. Whereas now, in class, students end up coming up to the board at the end of class and just taking photos. So you can see that mobile phones are used for this whole variety of different purposes in the world. And yet when our students come to our classes, they're often faced with signs like this that say, don't take photos, or you can't use your phone in here. And then we have a design that's very different to what our users want to experience. So we now communicate as much with our eyes and our thumbs as we do with our mouths and our ears. So why am I telling you about these things? Because these are all changes, huge changes that have happened in the last 10 years. English language has changed in the last decade. The way that we communicate has changed in the last decade. So I think that very few people know, or no one knows what's going to happen in the outside world and technology and language learning in the next decade. But we do know that things are going to change, and it's very likely that the pace of change is going to be even faster than it was in the last 10 years. And we probably know that the changes are going to be even bigger than they were in the last 10 years. So we can say that the world is changing, the way we communicate is changing, our model for English is changing and will continue to change, and education is changing. So what does that mean for English teachers and trainers and managers? It means that we need to change. And how do we change? Well, for me, one of the best ways of doing that and keeping up with the most current research and theory and practice is by taking a qualification. And we all work in a company where we have literally dozens of different qualifications, and we put hundreds of different teachers through these qualifications every year. So if you want to be part of that, like some of these teachers who've done that over the last year, then join a training program, take a qualification, and help your students communicate with the rest of the world. Thanks.